News stories from the NFL today. The Ravens have traded for wide receiver Diontae Johnson. Johnson has 3 touchdown catches for the Panthers, but now joins an offense led by Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Johnson, no stranger to the AFC North. He played his first 5 years of his career for the Steelers. Also, breaking news out of Indy, the Colts was injured. In our third breaking story, the Texans announced Stephon Diggs will miss the rest of the season with a torn ACL. The wide receiver suffered a lead with 3 touchdowns. Here's his QB reacting to the news. It's new on SportsCenter.
Yeah, man, it sucks. It's not easy. It's not, something that I just can have a whole bunch of words for. I just hoping, and just trying to just wrap my mind around, what happened. But it's tough. You can't really try. You try to think positively about it, but, it's not a bunch of positive thoughts. And I just really feel bad for him.
Adam Schefter joining us now. We heard what C.J. Stroud had to say about Stephon Diggs being out for the rest of the season. Schefter, what more can you tell us about that news?
I don't think this is a surprise to anybody. It's just unfortunate for Stephon Diggs and the Houston Texans. The moment you saw him go down on the field Sunday, non-contact, suspicion grew that it was, in fact, what everybody suspected, which was a torn ACL, which is terrible. First, a free agent, was playing very well in Houston. The Texans lose a weapon. So everybody loses here, nobody more so than Stephon Diggs, who's now out for the year with a big knee injury.
Yeah, definitely tough news for Stephon Diggs, and even tougher that it's a non-contact injury as well. Let's move over to the news out of Indy. The Colts, they're benching their quarterback and Anthony Richardson, bringing in Joe Flacco. And this is after Anthony Richardson had came out of the game, said that he was tired on Sunday against the Texans. Your thoughts on this benching?
Well, I think that it comes back to him tapping out and basically saying after the game that he was tired. I think that when you hear veteran, nobody can recall the last time that they've heard a quarterback tap out of the draft. Now, we can look at his completion percentage. It's the lowest in the NFL, the lowest in a long time, 44.4%. So the performance can justify it. But if he hadn't tapped out and he hadn't admitted that he tapped out because he was tired, I still think there's a reasonable chance that he would have been starting Sunday night's game against the Vikings. And it was really a self-inflicted wound because even when he taps out, he was honest about it, that he was tired. But if he says, I had a cramp, my stomach was bothering me, I had to go talk to the coach, my shoulder was on, whatever it is, then we might not be in this situation today. But he was the one who said, I was tired, took myself out. Once he said he was tired, I don't think that played well in the locker room. I don't think that played well in the organization. The organization met this morning and made the decision to go with Joe Flacco as the starting quarterback Sunday night in Minnesota against the Vikings.
And Shefty, in your estimation, how does a quarterback like Anthony Richardson come back from something like that?
Through time, through production, through doing the right things and making the right decisions. That's something that's going to follow him now for the better part of his career, certainly for the near future. And that's something that he's going to have to overcome. But that's something that you get to overcome through time, through practice, through reps, through performance, through production. And hopefully at some point in time, he'll get the chance to do that.
Let's get to our third breaking news story of the day. Diontae Johnson, the wide receiver from the Panthers, now going to the Ravens. What do you make of that move and that pickup?
Well, we see really not an arms race in the AFC, but a receiver race. We see the Buffalo Bills trade for Amari Cooper, the Jets trade for Devontae Adams, the Chiefs trade for DeAndre Hopkins, and now the Ravens trade for Diontae Johnson. So it's 4 players. Now, again, those are 4 teams that make wide receiver acquisitions, and the Ravens, I think, were not in the market necessarily to go after a big receiver, but the opportunity was such that the compensation was so low that why not roll the dice on a player on an expiring contract? Basically, they gave up a 5th-round pick and get back Johnson and a 6th. You see their upcoming schedule. Games against Denver, Cincinnati, at Pittsburgh, and at the Chargers on Monday Night Football. So Diontae Johnson will get a chance to go up against the team that traded him away in March to the Panthers. There were some issues there. It didn't work. The Panthers were going to move on, and they found a trade partner today in the Baltimore Ravens, where Deontay Johnson now will go play as a Raven.
Yeah, Ravens trying to up that depth on that roster, especially in that wide receiver room, and also move up in the AFC North as well. Adam Schefter with the latest. Thanks so much, Shefty.
Speaking of
the NFL today, the Ravens have traded for wide receiver Deontay Johnson. Johnson has 3 touchdown catches for the Panthers. However, now joins an offense led by Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Johnson, no stranger to the AFC North. He played the first 5 years of his career for the Steelers. Jeff Saturday joining us back here right now on SportsCenter. And Jeff, what do you think about this move, moving him from the Panthers to the Ravens?
Yeah, I like it, right? Familiarity, like you said. Understands the division, understands what he has to get done. I think for the Ravens, it just gives them a fallback guy, right? I don't think he's going to be, Zay Flowers is still going to be their guy. Bateman's been making some plays. You got Likely and Andrews. Aguilar made some plays for him. But if somebody happens to go down, tweaks, injuries, it's a long season. We understand that. I think they just understanding his familiarity with the division and the push the Ravens are going to have to make. They're going to have to score points. We usually talk about the Ravens of being this smothering defense that locks people down. The Ravens understand their path to the Super Bowl is going to be offensively, and that's riding Lamar Jackson and the hot hand he carries. So as many weapons as you can get him, the better off you'll be.
And we know that the Steelers, they're in sole possession of that first place in the AFC North. How does this maybe help the Ravens just inch up closer to try and catch that Steelers team?
Again, explosive plays, bringing it, when you start split, if you're Lamar Jackson, you can spread teams out more, the more receivers you can put on the field. It's just one of those things, though. I honestly feel like, it's adding to it just in case, right? Not going to be the centerpiece, the feature. It's going to be a guy who can add, though. But don't be surprised he gets some 100-yard games, right? If everybody's trying to block out Zay Flowers or locking down Likely and Andrews in the middle, however they're going to do it, adding some other players with Bateman and Aguilar, you just never know which guy's going to hit the hot hand. And so with the way the offense is run, they know they got to score points. They're just adding another weapon to Lamar Jackson's arsenal.
Yeah, some depth and insurance for that
That's
Ravens offense. Jeff Saturday helping us out with all this breaking news Tuesday. Thanks so much, Jeff.
Got some breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ, where Panthers are trading wide receiver Deontay Johnson to the Ravens. Carolina is receiving a 5th-round pick. Baltimore, of course, receiving Johnson and a 6th-round pick. That is the breaking news that we're following here on CBS Sports HQ. He's now going to join a Ravens receiving room, which includes Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and Nelson Aguilar. Johnson led Carolina with 30 catches for just over 350 yards and 3 touchdowns this season. And all that information being confirmed by our NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. JJ, again, Deontay Johnson, he's been traded from Carolina going to the Ravens. JJ, tell us about how all of this went down and what he's going to bring to that Baltimore offense.
So Deontay Johnson's been on the trade block for several weeks for the Carolina Panthers. This is a relationship that it was a failure to launch. They attempted and did trade for Deontay Johnson this offseason, thought he was going to help out Bryce Young. 2 weeks into the season, things were not going well between Deontay Johnson and the team, between Bryce Young and the team. Then you bench Bryce Young. Deontay Johnson has a baller game against the Las Vegas Raiders, and everyone seems happy at that point. And then things continue to go back to the way that they were. Communication issues was how it was described to me. The return on this trade, a pick swap, a 5 for 6, indicates that the rest of the league knew that Deontay Johnson was not going to be a Carolina Panther very long. I know that there were teams who were interested a couple of weeks ago. Carolina started talking about a day 2 pick, whether that was in the 2nd round or the 3rd round, and then wound up having to do this pick swap, again, a 5th for 6. So, again, that's evidence of what the market is. Sure, it's evidence that the word was out across the league that Deontay Johnson was not long for the Carolina Panthers. And so now he ends up with a Baltimore Ravens team that seemingly doesn't need him. But, that's what good teams do. They stock up. And that's what the Ravens are doing. They understand this, for them, is going to be a 21-week season, right? If they are playing in the Super Bowl in New Orleans in mid-February, attrition could happen. Yeah, they like their tight ends. Yeah, they like their wide receivers. What happens when someone goes down? But Jack, when I was just doing a hit a little bit ago about Stephon Diggs, suffering a torn ACL while Nico Collins is on injured reserve. That can happen to any team. And so here you are, the Ravens, and you say, gosh, all we have to do is devote a little bit of cap space. I mean, we're talking about they owe him $3.88 million is what Baltimore is going to be paying Diontae Johnson. Consider that Carolina has a cap hit of Diontae Johnson of 6.1. Consider that the Pittsburgh Steelers, who traded him away, have a cap hit of Diontae Johnson of 5.8. So Baltimore, for a pick swap, a day 3 pick swap, and a little less than $4 million in cap space, get a guy who can contribute to them. And look, if it doesn't work out, oh well, he's a free agent in the offseason. If it does work out, he's the guy that you can sign this offseason. So a fantastic move here by the Baltimore Ravens.
And JJ, we know that NFL trade deadline coming in a week. We've already seen a lot of receivers on the move even before this. Of course, Devontae Adams to the Jets, D-Hop to KC, Amari Cooper over to Buffalo. With a lot of those big name receivers coming off of the market quickly, are there any other wide receivers that you're hearing who could be next?
Well, Christian Kirk was probably going to be next, and then he fractured his collarbone in Sunday's game for the Jacksonville Jaguars. You have a couple other names out there. Elijah Moore with the Cleveland Browns. I don't know how many bites Cleveland has necessarily gotten with him. Mike Williams is a guy, of course, with the Jets, sort of an odd man out once they went out and got Devontae Adams. We'll be interested to see how much he's able to contribute on Thursday, or if what we're going to see sort of what Diontae Johnson just went through with Carolina, where he was a scratch ahead of the Denver Broncos game in anticipation of a trade. We saw it with Josh Uche with the Patriots being a healthy scratch before he was dealt to the Kansas City Chiefs earlier this week. So those are the two names that immediately come to mind that I would be monitoring: Elijah Moore and Mike Williams, but certainly plenty more can happen as this week.
Welcome to your Raiders news channel. Today we have a hot topic that could change the course of Las Vegas offense. With Devontae Adams' recent departure, the team is on the hunt for a star receiver to fill that big void, ***. The Raiders have struggled offensively, largely due to inconsistent quarterback play. As the team prepares to be aggressive in pursuing a new quarterback this offseason, it's also crucial that they do so in a favorable environment. Following Devontae Adams' exit, the Raiders' receiving core has notably weakened. According to Alex Ballentine of Bleacher Report, one of their main targets could be Chris Godwin, the receiver from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In a recent article, Ballentine noted that while trading Adams was the right decision, it has left a significant gap in the team's offense. Godwin, who suffered an ankle injury that ended his season, had an excellent start, accumulating 576 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns in just 7 games. Despite his talent, the question remains: can the Raiders afford what Godwin is worth? About to turn 29, Godwin is seeking a new contract. His injury history raises concerns, as this is the second time he's dealt with such a significant injury since 2021. Although he has shown he can bounce back, it's unlikely any team outside of Tampa will offer him a lucrative contract after his recent injury. The Raiders need to focus on youth and avoid overpaying for a veteran receiver. However, if Godwin becomes available for a reasonable price, let's say around $10 million per season, he could be a solid option. A veteran receiver with experience in getting open would greatly benefit a young quarterback. Currently, Jacoby Myers is the Raiders' #1 receiver, but depth at that position is concerning. Trey Tucker has shown flashes of talent but appears better suited as a #3 receiver. If the Raiders don't have to move up in the draft to secure a quarterback, they could use their draft capital to strengthen the offense. As the 2025 NFL Draft approaches, the Raiders will need to prioritize not only a quarterback but also a star receiver. The offense urgently needs improvement, and if general manager Tom Telesco can land a solid quarterback, he might also invest in a receiver, offensive line, and running back. So, Raiders fans, what do you think? Should the Raiders take the risk and bring in Chris Godwin, or should they focus on younger options in the draft? Leave your comments below, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to like this video. See you next time.